You will never feel rich, no matter how much your salary increases. Even people earning six figures report financial stress at record levels. In this video, you will understand why your income rises, but your freedom does not. Now let us begin. There's a silent shift that happens the moment you earn more money. At first, it feels powerful. You receive a raise, you land a better job, you close a bigger deal. For a moment, you feel ahead. Then something strange happens. The feeling fades, expenses rise, expectations rise, pressure rises, and somehow nothing really changes. You still feel tight, still feel behind, still feel like one mistake could set you back. This is not weakness, this is design. The system does not want you to feel secure. It wants you to feel slightly ahead, but never safe. That emotional gap is where control lives. Let us look at the data. Over the last 40 years, incomes have increased, but so have housing costs, healthcare costs, education costs, insurance costs, taxes, subscriptions, energy, food. When your income rises, your lifestyle is quietly upgraded. A better apartment, a newer car, better restaurants, more convenience, more comfort. And comfort becomes the new baseline. What used to feel luxurious becomes normal. What used to feel expensive becomes necessary. This is called lifestyle inflation. And it is one of the most powerful traps in modern economics. The moment your income increases, your fixed expenses expand to match it. Rent becomes a mortgage. A mortgage becomes a bigger mortgage. A used car becomes a financed car. A financed car becomes a luxury lease. Every step feels justified because you earned it, because you worked for it, because you deserve it. And you do deserve comfort. But comfort without leverage becomes a cage. The more you upgrade, the more you must maintain. The more you maintain, the more you must earn. The more you earn, the less you can afford to stop. That is the cycle. Now add social comparison. You are not competing with your past self anymore. You are competing with your peers, with coworkers, with neighbors, with people online. You see their vacations, their watches, their cars, their homes. And without realizing it, your baseline shifts again. You feel behind even when you are ahead, because someone always appears further. The system feeds this. Advertising does not target the poor. It targets the rising. It targets the ambitious. It targets the ones climbing, because they are the most vulnerable. They are closest to the illusion of wealth, close enough to taste it, but far enough to chase it. And the chase is profitable. Now here is the uncomfortable truth. If your wealth depends entirely on your paycheck, you are not rich, you are expensive, you have high maintenance, high obligations, high expectations, high burn rate. If your lifestyle requires constant income, you are not free. You are leveraged against yourself. This is why high earners often feel more trapped than low earners, because falling from higher feels scarier. A person making 40,000 may dream of making 100,000. A person making 100,000 fears dropping back to 60. Fear grows with lifestyle, security shrinks with upgrades, and freedom stays distant. The system rewards income growth, but it worships asset ownership. That difference changes everything. Income can disappear overnight. Assets compound quietly. Income is taxed aggressively. Assets grow with inflation. Income requires your time. Assets require capital, and most people are trained to focus only on income, never on ownership. That is why you never feel rich, because you're running faster on the same treadmill, just at a higher speed. And higher speeds feel impressive, but they do not move you forward. There's another layer to this trap that almost nobody talks about. It lives inside your mind, not your bank account, not your job, not your investments, your psychology. When humans feel unstable, they seek control. And when money feels unstable, people try to control it through consumption. They buy things to feel secure. They upgrade to feel successful. They spend to feel respected. They finance to feel powerful. This is not stupidity. This is emotional survival. For thousands of years, wealth meant survival. More food, more shelter, more safety. Your brain still operates on that ancient wiring. So when you earn more, your brain says, protect it, show it, use it. Enjoy it now, because tomorrow is uncertain. That instinct kept humans alive. But in modern finance, it keeps people poor. Now let us talk about debt, because debt is the invisible partner in most high-income lives. Mortgages, car loans, student loans, credit cards, personal loans. Buy now, pay later. Each one feels small alone. Together, they become a leash. Debt changes how you think. When you owe money, you stop thinking long-term. You start thinking monthly. What is due next? What must be paid? What cannot be missed? Your mind becomes a billing calendar. You are no longer planning your life. You are managing obligations. That mental shift destroys wealth building because real wealth requires patience. And debt destroys patience. Now look at history. In the 1950s, the average American family could survive on one income, one salary, one parent working, one home, one car, one life. Today, two incomes struggle to match that stability. Not because people are lazy, because costs have been financialized, housing became an asset class, education became a debt machine, healthcare became a profit engine, retirement became privatized, insurance became mandatory, everything that used to be public or affordable became monetized. You're paying rent to corporations, interest to banks, fees to platforms, premiums to insurers, subscriptions to everything. You do not just live in the economy, you feed it constantly, every month, automatically, silently. And because it is automatic, you stop questioning it. It feels normal. Now add inflation. Inflation is not just higher prices. It is a transfer of time. It steals future hours from you. When prices rise faster than wages, you must work more for the same life. That is not economics, that is extraction. And it compounds, year after year, quietly. Now let us talk about something even darker. Status anxiety. Humans fear falling more than they love rising. Once you reach a certain level, you become terrified of losing it. So you work harder, say yes more, rest less, risk less. You protect the lifestyle instead of building wealth. You choose stability over leverage, safety over ownership, salary over equity, because losing feels worse than winning feels good. And the system knows this. That is why promotions come with bigger expenses. Raises come with bigger temptations. Bonuses come with bigger traps. They give you just enough to upgrade, but not enough to escape. Now look at the rich, not celebrities, not influencers, real capital owners. They do not chase income, they minimize expenses, they maximize ownership. They use leverage differently, they borrow to buy assets, not lifestyles. They invest first, spend last, and often live below what they could afford. That is why they feel rich before they look rich, while everyone else looks rich and feels broke. This is the reversal, and it is intentional. The system celebrates spending, not saving, not investing, not owning. Spending keeps money circulating upward. Saving slows it. Ownership threatens it. So spending is praised. Ownership is hidden. Financial literacy is buried. And hustle is glorified. Work harder. Earn more. Spend more. Repeat. That is the script. And most people never question it. Until they are exhausted. Until they are burned out. Until they realize they have been running for decades with nothing solid underneath them. And that realization hurts. Because it means the problem was never effort. It was structure. It was incentives. It was design. Here is where the illusion becomes complete. Because even when people finally start earning well, they still feel trapped. They still feel anxious. They still feel behind. And they do not understand why. The reason is simple. Their money is not working for them. They are working for their money. Every dollar they earn depends on their time, their energy, their health, their availability. Miss work, income drops. Get sick, income drops. Burnout, income drops. Take a break, income drops. That is not wealth, that is dependency. It just looks nicer than poverty. Now think about this. Most people are taught one financial rule. Get a good job, that is it. No one teaches how to own systems, how to control cash flow, how to structure assets, how to protect capital, how to use leverage intelligently. You are trained to be productive, not powerful. Productivity benefits employers. Power benefits owners. So schools teach productivity, not ownership. And the moment you enter adulthood, the game is already tilted. Now let us talk about lifestyle inflation, because this is where high earners quietly die financially. Every raise feels like freedom, until it becomes a new baseline, new apartment, new car, new clothes, new restaurants, new habits. Suddenly, your old life feels unacceptable. You could survive on less before. Now you think you cannot. Not because you need more, because you got used to more. Comfort becomes a cage, and the bars are invisible. Now add social pressure. Social media shows everyone winning, everyone traveling, everyone investing, everyone succeeding. You never see debt. You never see anxiety. You never see insecurity. You only see highlights. So you compare your real life to everyone else's marketing. And you feel behind. So you spend more, work more, stress more, just to keep up with illusions. Now let us expose another lie. The lie of meritocracy. Work hard and you will get rich. It sounds fair. It sounds moral. It sounds motivating. It is mostly false. Hard work helps, but ownership decides outcomes. Two people can work equally hard. One owns assets, one does not. Over time, the gap becomes massive, not because one is smarter, because one is positioned better. And positioning matters more than effort. Now think about taxes. Most workers pay taxes first, then live on what is left. Most asset owners pay themselves last. After deductions, after depreciation, after structures, after shelters. The rules are different, not broken, different. And you are rarely told that. Because if everyone knew, the system would change. Now let us talk about time. Time is the most valuable asset, but most people sell it cheaply. 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year for 40 years. That is 2,000 hours per year, 80,000 hours in a lifetime. traded for salaries that barely build independence. And when time runs out, so does income. Retirement becomes fear, not freedom. Savings become survival tools, not abundance. And people wonder why they never felt rich. It is because their wealth was never permanent. It was always temporary, conditional, fragile. Now look at how real wealth is built. Slowly, quietly, boringly. Index funds, rental properties, private equity, business ownership, royalties, intellectual property. Not flashy, not viral, not exciting, but unstoppable over decades. While most people chase fast money, owners build slow empires, and slow always wins, because it compounds. And compounding is invisible at first, then unstoppable later. Now here is the uncomfortable truth. Feeling rich is not about income, it is about control. Control over time, control over decisions, control over risk, control over survival. If you lose your job and panic, you're not rich. If one bill can destroy you, you are not rich. If you cannot walk away, you are not rich. No matter what your paycheck says, we are getting close to the final layer. The one almost nobody talks about. The one that explains why even millionaires feel empty and why financial freedom feels farther than ever. Now we arrive at the deepest layer of this illusion. The part that explains why even people with millions still feel anxious, still feel insecure, still feel unsatisfied. Because the problem is not only financial, it is emotional, it is psychological, it is existential. Modern society connects your identity to your income. From childhood, you're asked, what do you want to be? Not who do you want to become. Your job becomes your label. Your salary becomes your score. Your lifestyle becomes your proof. So when money fluctuates, your self-worth fluctuates. A good month feels like success. A bad month feels like failure, even when nothing about you changed. This is dangerous because it ties your mental health to economic cycles. Recessions become personal. Layoffs become shame. Slow seasons become self-doubt. The system externalizes risk, but internalizes blame. Now let us talk about scarcity mindset. When people grow up with instability, they never fully relax, even when they earn more. They hoard emotionally. They overspend defensively. They fear loss constantly because their nervous system learned safety is temporary. So every dollar becomes emotional, not strategic. That destroys wealth because fear makes bad decisions. Fear makes people sell at bottoms. Fear makes people avoid opportunity. Fear makes people cling to bad situations. Now look at millionaire surveys. A shocking number of millionaires report financial anxiety, even after achieving what they thought would free them. Why? Because their wealth is tied to volatile systems, markets, businesses, currency, politics. They know how fragile it is, so they keep running, keep accumulating, keep worrying. They never arrive, because arrival was never defined. Now look at consumer culture. Everything tells you more is better, new is better, bigger is better, upgrade is better. Enough is never enough. Contentment is discouraged, because contentment kills consumption, and consumption powers the system. So dissatisfaction is engineered. Even when you win, you feel behind. Even when you succeed, you feel incomplete. That is intentional. Now consider something subtle. Most people do not know what they actually want. They know what they are shown: homes, cars, vacations, brands, experiences. But few people ask, do I want this? Or was I trained to want this? That confusion costs fortunes. People spend decades chasing lives that were never theirs. Now let us talk about control again. True wealth is boring. It is predictable. It is resilient. It is quiet. But boring does not sell. So people chase excitement, speculation, hype, trends, shortcuts, which resets their progress repeatedly. One bad cycle erases years. Then they start again, then again, then again. Meanwhile, patient builders keep compounding, and they rarely talk, because noise attracts attention, and attention attracts risk. Now here is the truth few admit. Most people do not want freedom. They want comfort without responsibility. They want security without sacrifice. They want wealth without learning. That combination does not exist. Freedom requires discomfort. Ownership requires patience. Wealth requires restraint. And restraint is unpopular, so most people choose stress instead. Now combine identity, fear, scarcity, comparison, and desire. You get a perfect psychological cage. One that adapts as you rise, one that grows as you earn, one that tightens as you succeed. Which is why so many people say, I make more than ever, but I feel poorer than ever. It is not because you failed. It is because the system monetized your emotions and sold them back to you. Now everything connects. Income, debt, lifestyle, fear, identity, comparison, scarcity, consumption. It is not random. It is a loop. And once you are inside it, the system keeps you running. Not because you are weak, because the loop is powerful. Here's the truth most people never hear. Feeling rich has almost nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with margin. Margin in time, margin in choices, margin in mistakes, margin in health, margin in energy. When you have margin, you breathe. When you do not, you panic. Most people live with zero margin. One emergency away from chaos, one bad month away from crisis, one mistake away from collapse. So even when they earn more, they never relax because nothing is stable underneath. Now look at how wealthy families think. They do not ask, how much can we make? They ask, how much do we need to never worry again? That difference changes everything. They cap lifestyle, they build buffers, they prioritize resilience, they design for decades. Not for next year, not for next bonus, not for next promotion, decades. Now think about leverage. Real leverage is not debt. It is systems. It is ownership. It is distribution. It is skills that scale. It is capital that compounds. It is networks that multiply. Most people are trained away from leverage. They are trained toward dependence, toward salaries, toward approval, toward permission. That is why escape feels impossible, because the tools were never taught. Now here is the most important realization. You do not need to be rich to feel rich. You need control. Control over your time, control over your expenses, control over your direction, control over your learning, control over your risk. When you control those, peace follows. When you do not, anxiety follows, no matter the income. Now let us be honest. This path is not easy. It requires saying no when others say yes. It requires living below your means when others flex. It requires patience when others chase hype. It requires learning when others scroll. It requires building when others consume. It requires discipline in a world that sells distraction. But this is how people quietly escape. Not through luck, not through miracles, through structure, through positioning, through consistency, over time. That is why the system hates patience. Because patience breaks its grip. A patient person stops reacting, stops overspending, stops panicking, stops chasing, and starts compounding, slowly, silently, relentlessly.